YouTube, this is your boy, Sean Matry, aka Tilt Matry, with the full Sky Striker video. This is a complete guide on how to beat different meta decks, what you want as text, and how you can easily get this to Plat 1, and what my ideal list would look like for a tournament setting or for a Plat 1 run. I'm going to go completely in depth here, so try and stay with me if you can. Alright, so I will also try and timestamp this so you guys can know where the different matchups are and where I start talking about matchups and decks and whatever. So I'm also going to write things in chat. So the first thing we're going to go over here is I want to go over the core engine. Alright, so this is, let me cut down the volume a little bit if I can here. Give me 1 sec. Just want to cut down the volume of the game so that way you guys can hear me clearly. Okay. So, our core engine is, we run 3 Ray. So what does Ray do? Ray is the main reason why you play this deck. You want 3 of her. Alright? Ray, you can use her to link 1 into any of your links. We'll go over them. But also as a quick effect, she can tag herself out and summon any Sky Striker out of the deck. Extra deck, any link. At any point. Okay? And she tributes off as a cost. So, if you go ahead and you summon Ray, you can attack with her and then tag out and then summon out any of your links. You also can combo her with Area 0, and we'll talk about that. But she can note that she can quick effect tag out into any links and she tributes as a cost. So, let me give you some examples. If your opponent imperms her, on summon, you quick effect tag out, summon any link. If your opponent activates Valor on her, you quick effect tag out, summon any link. If your opponent activates Max C and you want to prohibit them from drawing a card, you can quick effect tag out, summon a Shizuku, specifically, because that's the one where you really want to search. And then, they don't get to draw because you summoned on Chain Link 2, and their Max C is the last thing to resolve. Ash Blossom doesn't really apply here, so that's something that really doesn't apply. The one thing that you have to be careful of when you use Ray's quick effect here is Call by the Grave, because if they banish it, then Ray will go to the grave as a cost, and they chain Call by, then you won't get to summon, and your Ray will get banished, and that's very bad. So if you think that they have a Call by, don't do this. Alright? Now, her second effect is, when a Link monster, is removed from the field, Sky Striker Ace Link monster, I should say, then you can, well, leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, not by your own. If it leaves the field by an opponent's card effect, then you can special summon this card. So, if they get rid of it in any way, except that they steal it and link it off, then you can bring back Ray. So, very, very nice. And then, like I said, if you haven't used the quick effect, then you can quick effect her out into another link. One of the biggest misplays you'll notice your opponent do is that they swing into your, Link monster, let's say it's the Battlefish, you go up against the Eldritch. They swing into your Link, then you summon out Ray, right? So they destroy it and summon out Ray. Then they have no other attack targets, so they proceed to end turn, then we quick effected a Shizuku. And that gives us a search. So that's one of the things you want to be looking out for. If they swing in the Ray and they don't have another attack after that, not into Ray, it's your Link, and then they don't have another attack, after that, you summon Ray, then you have the opportunity to resummon Ray, and then quick effect out into Shizuku to get a search in the end phase. So that's very good. Another thing you want to know about Ray is that you want to summon her in defense in the mirror, and this is very important. It's good to summon her in defense anyway, but it's very important to summon her in defense in the mirror. The reason why is none of the links outside of Kagari have a standard over 1500 base attack. Shizuku only reduces attack, and Kagari does boost, so it can get over it, But in any case where they don't have a Kagari, then yeah, you're sitting pretty chill in defense. Plus, if they have another Rosé, it also sits at 1500. They can't swing over your Ray. And then at the end of the turn, you can tag out into... Oh, excuse me for that. You can tag out into your Shizuku in the mirror. And that's very, very valuable. So, you can see how powerful Ray is. Now, we'll go over the field spell interaction once we get to it. But right now, we're going to go over Rosé. Now, Rosé is your less ideal opener. You want to see Ray all the time, but Rosé is your less ideal. So, Rosé has a few effects. The first effect is, if a Sky Striker Ace monster, including your links, are normal or special summon, you can special summon it from the hand. Also, another effect is, if an opponent's monster in the extra monster zone is destroyed by battle, or at least by field by our card effect, not theirs, by our card effect, then we can special summon Rosé back from the graveyard. This can help in the mirror match, and I'm going to talk about that once we get up to the mirror match, because that's going to get very convoluted, and I want to designate a separate section for that. And then you can negate a monster's effect on the field. So that's very, very useful if you know how to play Rosé correctly. Knowing how to use Rosé correctly in the grind game can be very important, and it can also help you make access... Not really... It can help you make access code plays, but it's more useful to make Shizuku plays and Nightmare Phoenix plays, and we'll talk about that. Okay, so the next card I want to go over as far as core is concerned are your spells, and there are a ton of them that you play. There are some of them I choose not to run, but there are a lot of them that I do play. Okay? And first one, the most important one that you need to know is Engage. And the question is, do you need two of these? Yes, absolutely. There's no reason why you should not have two. I'd play three if it were legal. But it's not. It's not legal to run three. So you run two. Alright? So what Engage does is, the first thing you need to know is you can't activate any of your Sky Striker spells unless there are no monsters in your main monster zone. So you gotta make sure you clear your main monster zone. Alright, so which means that when you activate your spells, generally, if you have nothing on the field at all, no monsters on the field at all, or if you have your links out, because your links aren't in the main monster zone, they're gonna go in the extra monster zone. Okay? That's the one thing you need to know about all your Sky Striker spells. Now, outside of that clause, Engage has two effects. Most of your Sky Striker spells will also have two effects. One generic effect, and a second effect if you have three or more spells in the grave. They do not need to be different names. They do not need to be Sky Striker spells. They could be Raigeki, they could be Toon Table Contents, heck, it could be Axe of Despair, Sparks, whatever you want, if that's the direction you want to go. But that's not the direction you're going. You're not running Sparks and you're not running Axe of Despair. So, anyway. So, first effect of Engage is that it adds a Sky Striker card for your deck to your hand. So, automatically, it's really good. It's a Rhoda. Okay? Second effect of Engage is that if you have three or more spells in the grave, draw a card. So, immediately, if you activate this with three or more spells in the grave, this becomes a +1. And if you use this with Kagari, or you have multiple in your hand, that advantage can snowball really quick. So, you know, it may start out small, but it can really build up really, really fast. So that's the one thing you need to know about Sky Strikers. They will snowball, they will generate you a ton of advantage, and you need to know that the deck will get you there. Alright, so Engage is really, really powerful. If you have three spells in the grave, it's a +1 on its own, and you need to be playing three of this. This also searches out your Ray. It searches out basically anything in the entire deck. Okay, so you need two. No exceptions. Alright, next is Sky Striker Maneuver Afterburners. First effect, targets one face-up monster on the field and destroys it. Second effect, if you have three or more spells in your graveyard, just like Engage, you can destroy one spell or trap on the field. So this is very good backer removal. Note, Afterburners has to destroy a face-up monster. and it also targets. So this is very important. Okay? Do not attempt to destroy your opponent's set monster, otherwise you'll pop your own link, and then you will be very sad. Okay? So don't do that. Also, after you pop their monster, if you pop, like, let's say an Eldritch, then you can pop a back row, so that could be an out to skill drain. Keep that in mind. This could be an out to skill drain, so you want to run it. Alright, next is Hercules base, not Hercules. I messed up the two names. Hercules base has actually a couple of effects. It has 3 effects. Rarely. Actually, no. It has 2 effects. What am I saying? It has 2 effects. Okay. So the first effect is an equip effect. Now, if this card is equipped to a monster, that monster can attack directly. However, it can make a second attack on monsters during each battle phase. If the equipped monster destroys a monster in battle while you have 3 spells in the grave, there's the 3 spell effect. You can draw 1 card. Now, here's the other effect. The other effect is, if this card is sent from the field to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target up to 3 Sky Striker spells in your graveyard and put them back in your deck. 3 Sky Striker cards, not Sky Striker spells. 3 Sky Striker cards. Now, the first effect you almost never use at all. The second effect is very, very good, because it allows you to recycle Kigari, and even though you may have a multi-roll up, you may want to put Engage back in the main deck. There is use for putting Engage back in the main deck. Okay, you may say, oh, why wouldn't I just set it with multi-roll? I'm going to tell you why. And it's going to do you a lot better grinding out your opponent. So you need to understand these are advanced plays in Sky Striker. There are sometimes you're going to want to put this back in the deck. Alright? But most of the time, you're using this to put back Kigari. And then Kigari can loop this. We'll talk about that. Looping this to get an infinite amount of Kigaris. We'll talk about that. Alright. Next is Area 0. Now, in an optimal list, most lists run 2 copies of the field spell. Some people run 3. There's no need when you have a terraforming. If you don't have terraforming, run 3. If you do have terraforming, run 2. Okay? So this, again, like all your other effects, has 2 different effects. First effect is you can target 1 other card you control, excavate the top 3 cards. Now, this is a rare one. You don't have to... You can control a Sky Striker in the main monster zone to activate this effect. So, this effect targets 1 other card you control, excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and if you do, you can add 1 excavated Sky Striker card to your hand, and then shuffle the rest of the deck. Keep in mind, if you excavate a Sky Striker card and you say, I don't want this, your card will go to the graveyard. So if you decide, let's say you target something like an Imperm, right, because you have no play starter, and you activate this, and you flip up another Area 0 or Hercules base, and you say, nah, I don't want to lose the Imperm for this. You will lose the Imperm, and you will not get the card. So choose to get the card, in that case, even if it's something you don't want. Now, the second effect is mainly what you play this for, and that is, if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon a Sky Striker Ace monster from your deck. So, if you send this off with multi-roll, Twin Twisters, you are able to proc this effect and special summon out a Sky Striker Ace Rare Rosé from your deck. So that could be a play starter. So, very good. The first effect is potentially a play starter too, but very unreliable. Next is Sky Striker Mecha Modules Multi-Roll. Now, this card is one of the most powerful spells in your deck, and it has 2 effects. Once per turn, you can target 1 other card you control. This one, you do not need to have any Sky Strikers in only the extra monster zone. You can have a monster in the main monster zone when you use this. Target 1 other card you control, send it to the graveyard, and your opponent can activate cards or effects in response to your spell cards or activations, or spell card activations for the rest of the turn. Alright, this is a very powerful effect. I'm going to tell you why. First of all, A, if you go up against Strytron, and they do not negate this, you can mess them up really badly. They have to negate this, because if they don't negate this, then what you can do is you can activate multi-roll, send off any other card in the field. Then if you have 3 other spells in the graveyard, or if you have an Afterburners in your hand, then you can pop their Herald. Because, and you may say, well, why? A, they can't respond to your spells. Okay? So, yeah, then you can pop their Herald. Because they can't respond to any of your spell effects. Now, B, you may say, okay, well, this thing's on the field. And I activate it, they don't negate. I target a card and send it to the grave. Can they negate that? That's an activated effect. Wrong. They cannot negate it. And the reason why is Mecha multi-roll is already resolved on the field. It's been activated from the hand. Once cards are already on the field and they've been activated mid-deck condition, they can no longer negate you. Okay? It's the same if you're playing Virtual and you have Qinglong. Same thing. So they have to know the negate here. Otherwise, they're down their Herald. And that's very, very strong. Now, this is also very good in the mirror match or against Eldritch, because this first effect, if you think they have Solemn, this is a great way to bait it out. So if you have a Heartbeat's Feather Duster or a Lightning Storm, and they fear it, then you activate this, send the card off, and then they can't respond to Duster. So if they have Solemn Judgment, they're out of luck. Okay? So that counters Solemn. Alright, when trying to blow up back row. Alright? So that's something you need to understand. However, with that being said, that is not the reason why this card is broken. Even though that seems pretty good, the second effect makes this crazy. Once per turn during the end phase, you could set Sky Striker spells with different names from your graveyard up to the number of Sky Striker spells you activated this turn while this card was on the field, face up. But banish them when they leave the field. This lets you use your spells for free, which is absolutely insane. So if I activate multi-roll, right, and I activate multi-roll, and now I activate, let's say, engage, and then I follow up with area 0, then I get 2 spells, and then I get to reset 2 spells in the end phase, and use those spells again. That is incredibly powerful, and it really sets up yourself to gain a ton of advantage, and it can make your opponent struggle with Anchor. Now, if that wasn't good enough, we can use multi-roll for another 2 very powerful interactions. As we said, multi-roll's first effect sends a card off for the card effect to the graveyard. Now, I'm going to teach you interactions here. There is something you need to know. There is cost, this is game mechanics, and then card effect. When you negate a card effect, you do not negate the cost. So, for instance, let's take a card like Ash Blossom, for instance. Ash Blossom negates the card effect. Okay? Now, Ash Blossom does not negate a cost, which is why you cannot negate Verte Anaconda. But you may ask me, okay, that's good and all. I know that there's 2 different parts of a card. 2 different parts of a card. Now, with that being said, what does that all mean? What is a cost, and how can I identify a cost? Well, this is where I'm here to help. A cost comes before the first semicolon. Before the first colon. Semicolon, I should say. That is not part of the card effect. Alright, so let's talk about this. Multi-roll. Multi-roll, you see the first semicolon here, where it says, ignore the once per turn. That has nothing to do with it. Okay? This second sentence here, second sentence on multi-roll says, you can target one other card you control. targeting the card is the cost. So, that is not a cost. Alright? To send your card to the graveyard. Sending your card to the grave is not a cost. So what does that mean? Why did I go over this? Area 0 will proc. Because it is being sent by the card effect and not the cost. Lunalights apply the same way as do Dark Worlds. Now I know if you've been playing TCG for 100 million years, this has probably come up. Oh, I activated my Phoenix Wing Blast. Why couldn't I activate my Silva? Why couldn't I activate my Grapha? My Silva. Why couldn't I activate my Dark World effects? Why? Because they apply as cost. Okay. Dark World effects only activate on card effect discards, not cost. So that's something you need to understand. Okay. Now, going on further, there is one more application multi-role we need to talk about. And that is playing around Ash. Now, if you suspect, let's say your opponent has a bunch of cards in there and they just set one card. That's generally a good indicator that they have Ash Blossom. If you think your opponent has Ash, what you want to do is you want to multi-roll first, then send the card off, then activate Engage. Then they can't Ash your Engage because they can't respond to any of your spells. The worst thing to happen would be for you to activate Engage, and then you get Ash Blossom, and then you lose. That's going to suck for you. Alright, so keep that in mind. Next, our other spells are Hornet Drones. Hornet Drones has two effects, and this one we're back to no monsters in the main monster zone. If you control no monsters in the main monster zone, this summons a Sky Striker Ace token in defense, which cannot be attributed. Now, the second effect doesn't really come up at all. If you have 3 more spells in the grave, it becomes 1500 attack and 1500 defense, which is irrelevant. The main thing you need to know is this summons a Sky Striker spell token, which allows you to make Ray, and then which allows you to make Hayate, swing, and then dump a Ray. Okay, so this is the play starter. This could also be an extender for lethal, either through you having no monsters in the main monster zone, and you link off in the main monster zone, which rarely happens, but it can. Or you can combo this off with Shark Cannons and Widow Anchor. So if you have no monsters in the main monster zone, you can activate this because it's a quick play spell, so you can activate it on either turn. And then you chain your Widow Anchor because you still want to have a monster in the main monster zone or your Shark Cannons, and then get those effects. Widow Anchor. This is your most broken spell. Okay? You run 2 of this, beside Engage. If you control no monsters in the main monster zone, you target an effect monster on the field, negate its effects. But if you have 3 monsters, 3 spells in the graveyard of any kind, you steal that monster. If they summon Mubeta, you negate and you steal. You say, no Fafnir for you, you ain't dumping Gamma, you ain't dumping your ritual spell. You could steal a lot of good monsters in the game. You could steal Sharik. You could steal a lot of Tri-Brigades. Anything that you could target, you could steal. However, there is something you need to know. If an effect is already negated, you cannot steal that monster. You cannot activate this. If their effects are negated, then you can't steal their monster, because you can't negate an effect that's already been negated. Now, the other thing you need to know, okay, is that you can steal Sky Striker Link monsters in the mirror match, which becomes very powerful. Now, we're going to talk about this card really in depth once we get over into the Link, into the mirror match, because this becomes very, very important. Okay. Now, next one is Sky Striker Medica Shark Drones. And again, this has 2 great effects. If you control no monsters in the main monster zone, you can target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard and banish it. So it's essentially like a DD Crow. Very good in the mirror match to banish their array. If you have 3 more spell cards in your graveyard, you can special summon that monster. Now, the third effect comes in clutch, because you can steal your opponent's Ash Blossom or Veiler, and then, or any tune that they have, and then make your Selene Access Code combo, which we'll talk about and I'll teach you how to do. Now, those are your core cards in the spells. Let's go over the monsters. Kagari. Kagari is your best link. You run this. I don't give a dongy doo-doo. You have to get one of this, or the deck's unplayable. You need Kagari. Alright? And they can only be summoned by a different attribute than the ones they already are. So, example, you can't go wind into wind. So if you Hayate, you can't link it to Hayate. You have to link it to a different attribute. Alright. So Kagari takes 1 non-fire Sky Striker Ace monster. If this card is special summon, you can target 1 Sky Striker spell in your grave, add it to your hand. So it adds back any spell, which is automatically really good. Gains 100 attack for each spell in your graveyard. You can only special summon Kagari once per turn. So all your links can only be special summoned. All your Link Sky Strikers can only be special summoned once per turn. This is really good. Link 1. So you can make this with Ray, you can make this with any Sky Striker Ace. So the materials for all your links, except for Zeke, are 1 Sky Striker Ace. Shizuku. This is your other best link. Oh, also we didn't talk about Kagari's other effect. It also gains 100 attack for each spell in your grave, which is really useful for outing Samorg if they build up a big Samorg. If you could dump a ton of spells in the grave and you summon like a Kagari or Shizuku, you'll learn when I go with Shizuku's effect. That can be really useful at Samorg, because Samorg can't be targeted, and any non-targeting effects are a real pain in the neck sometimes to out in this deck. Sky Striker Ace Shizuku. Shizuku takes 1 non-water Sky Striker Ace monster. Now, this is monsters your opponent controls lose 100 attack for each spell in the graveyard, Now, that's really good for adding some more, but what makes this better is the second effect. Once per turn, during the end phase of this card with special summon, you can target 1 Sky Striker spell card in your deck, add it to your hand, and different than any spell with a Sky Striker name in your grave. So example, if you have Engage in the grave, you can't add Engage. If you have Widow in your grave, you can't add Widow. It has to be something you don't have in your grave. But if you don't have an Engage in your grave, you can add Engage from your deck to your hand, which is very, very powerful. You generally end on this. Hayate, another good Sky Striker link. Again, the only once per turn, and you can summon this with a non-win Sky Striker Ace. This could attack your opponent directly, which is nice to get damage in. Also, at the damage calculation, you can send 1 Sky Striker card from your deck to your graveyard. If you use Thwarted Drones or Rose, you're dumping your Ray. Otherwise, it's a good idea to dump an Area Zero, just so you don't top deck into it. Or you can dump an extra multi-roll that you don't want. Kana. Kana is the weakest, but it's still useful. If this card is special summon, you can target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. Cannot attack until the end of the opponent's next turn, so it could stall on a bit. Each time you activate a Sky Striker spell or its effect, so it can be an effect on the field, you can gain 100 life. So not really that useful, but you play it anyway, just for names. Okay, next is Zeke. Zeke is really good. It includes 2 monsters, including a Sky Striker Ace monster. Must be link summoned, so you can't special summon this in any other way. And you can only summon Zeke once per turn. And it takes 2 monsters, including a Sky Striker Ace. It could be Sky Striker Ace plus any monster. It can be a monster that you Shark Drones back from your opponent's graveyard, or that you steal with Widow Anchor. Now, Zeke's effect is very good. You can target 1 face-up monster in the field, banish it into your opponent's next end phase. So that's very strong already. Deals with potential threats that are on the field until your opponent's next end phase. Once per turn, you can target 1 other card you control. This card gains 1,000 attack and sends it to grave, so this could be another out to Samorg, because it's get up to 2,500 attack. So very, very good. Alright, now, we're going to discuss Tex Part 2. That's the main core of what we were running. Now we're going to get into the text of Sky Striker. Alright, what should you be running? I know by this point you've probably seen a bunch of different lists. Some that run Kaiser Coliseum, some that run pure hand traps, some that run very little hand traps, and a bunch of going first cards, pot of avarice, pot of desires. I'm going to tell you what to do. You want to stack your deck with hand traps. And background removal. And you want to go second. Always want to go second. This is why I do not like Kaiser Coliseum in the deck. You want to go second with this deck always. Because you want to stack up with hand traps. Hand traps, good hand traps, make your opponent really struggle to get their plays off. Now, what hand traps do you want? What should we be playing? Okay, so, first hand trap. Let's talk about Effect Veiler. This is a must. And you need 2 to 3 of it. The reason why you need Veiler is because without Veiler you can't make access code. Alright, so you need 2 to 3 of it. Now, during your opponent's main phase, you send this to the grave, then target effect monster on the field and negate its effects. So this is very good. Now, this is very good to negate Move Beta. It's also good to negate any of the Tri-Brigade effects after they vanish for cost. So that's very good. That takes out 2 top tier decks already. If Virtual World goes to the Gigantic Castle, that's also another potential negate as well. So that's very, very strong. You definitely want to play 2 of this. Maxi, another 3 up. Now, we're going to talk about its use for Hell combos once we get up into it. But we're going to go over the hand traps. Next, Maxi. This is a 3 of. Why? Because Maxi allows you to draw a ton of cards. Now, as far as Sky Strikers, they do not know what text you play. That could have a Nibiru in the deck. And they may not want to give it to you. So, if you Maxi, you get to draw a ton of cards. Potentially spells to board break them. Multi-roll to help with that. And that becomes good. You can also draw in some more hand traps. Like Ash, maybe Skullmeister, maybe Imperm. All very good choices to draw into your Maxis. Ash Blossom. Another fantastic card. Ash is a very good card because Ash Blossom negates the add of a card or mill of a card from the deck to the grave or anything that would special summon out of the deck. What are we negating with this? Tanky, Ben 10, Alpha, Lulu. You don't really want to negate Lulu in most cases. We'll talk about why you want to negate Qinglong, but Qinglong. What else can we negate with Ash in the meta? Kit, Minerval. So many things you want to negate. It's endless. Alright, so you want to negate that. You can even negate Grav to special summon out of the deck. You can negate a Rusty Bardiche. Actually, no, you can't. Never mind. Actually, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. You can negate Bardiche. Okay. So, a lot of things you want to negate with Ash. 3 of this. Skullmeister is personally my tech choice. I like this because this negates Qinglong, Graf, Ben 10, any Drytron effect in the graveyard, the Ritual Spell, Tearback. All very good options to negate with Skullmeister. So, and your Eldritch Traps, you can negate this as well for them to reset out of the deck. So that's actually really good. I like this. Now, my personal choice, I like 3 Imperms. Imperm is very good in the Eldritch match when they don't have skill drain. If they have order, and you set this in Imperial Order combo, and they don't have a drain, you can negate Imperial Order, which absolutely hoses this deck. So very good to negate that. Also, this can negate Tri-Brigade effects. This can negate Mubeta Fopnia. This can negate Diviner. That's another thing you can Ash and Veiler is Diviner. That's another thing for all those Drytron players you don't like. Very, very, very powerful. What other matchups would you want to use Imperm in? You can negate this in Virtual World if they go for Cloud Castle. Negate. If you set this in a Chuche column, that can be very useful because if you set this in a Chuche column, you can potentially turn off Chuche for a turn. So very, very nice. Imperm, I like this at 3. Okay? You can run this at 2. It is totally possible to do that. I like it at 3, but you can run it at 2. Huge fan of this card. Evenly matched. This is technically a hand trap, I guess. This is very good against back row decks. So if you go second, they set a ton of back row. You go enter battle phase, and Eldritch sets 5. Well, then say bye-bye. And if they set order and they have to get rid of Imperial Order, not a good time for them. Not a good time. Alright. So that covers it for what I run as hand traps. Now let's talk about some of the other choices you can run. Nibiru. Nibiru is pretty nice. Alright. However, if you go up against good players, they know how to play through Nibiru. And it doesn't become as valuable. But you can run Nibiru. There's definitely room for it, I think. You could definitely play some Nibirus in the deck. You could even cut down on the evenly match if you want to play Nibiru, and that's fine. It can be very good against players who do not know how to play around it. So if they play into it, then Nibiru can be strong. So I would say no more than 2, but it definitely can be played, and it definitely has some usage. Alright, now, another hand trap you can play is DD Crow. Also, with Skullmeister, that's an SR. So if you're on a budget, great option. If you're on a budget. This is a budget one too. DD Crow I don't think is as good because it doesn't negate the effects in the grave. Doesn't come to me as strong against Drytron because if they know you have it, then to play around it and summon it out of their hand. Their Herald. You could potentially Crow Ben 10 out of the grave if they summon it there, but if they have multiple Ben 10s, then they can play around it anyway. But it's still a very decent tech, at least in the meta. I think that Skullmeister is a bit more reliable, but this is definitely a solid tech if you don't have as much money. And you could tech this alongside maybe Skullmeister and whatnot. So this could definitely work as a solid tech hand trap. Just not my favorite in the meta. Another hand trap you can run in this deck is this one. Ghost Ogre. And Snow Rabbit, which allows you to destroy a monster on the field. One effect is activated. Again, I don't think this is that strong. But you can run it if you want to. You could also run Ghost Spell and Haunted Mansion. This card's nice too. I think this is more of like a more expensive version of Skullmeister, but it could do a bit more than Skullmeister can in some situations. As this can negate a card effect that would special summon from the grave, or also banish cards from the grave, or add back from the grave, back to the deck, hand, or extra deck. So, it does a bit more, but not too much more than Skullmeister does, so Skullmeister pretty much accomplishes the same thing, and it's an SR. So, very good. Alright, now, one other tech that nobody plays, and it's an option, it's called Ghost Reaper and Winter Cherries. So if you wanted to play this, what you would do is you would tech out some of these links that you have in your extra links, and then you would play this with some staple extra deck monsters like Herald of Arclight, and this is super good in the mirror match ideally, because if you activate this in the mirror and you call Kagari, then they lose their Kagari, and it's very sad for them. Again, like I said, I'm not so sure on this card. It seems a little bit situational. You could also use this, not situational, but it kind of takes cards out of your extra deck. You could also call Shuriken Tri-Brigade, which is very strong. So, yeah. And also to use this, your opponent needs to control more monsters than you do. So you kind of have to open this. This might be something I might test on the alternate account to see how it works, but right now, I don't think it's a mandatory staple at all. But it's interesting to know if you ever wanted to play it. It can be a cuck. It can be good in the side deck in tournaments, but yeah, there's that. Another hand trap, this one I potentially side deck, is Duel and Lock. Duel and Lockbird, this card can be side decked, and this card completely cuts off multiple decks that want to search multiple times, like Drytron. So this is very good against Drytron in the side deck, as well as Psycho Reader. I wouldn't main this because this becomes very situational and ladder in most decks. Do not need to search multiple times, unless you're playing something like Bird Up or something like that, Drytron. It doesn't really come into play. Okay, now, we're taking care of this. The hand trap portion. So that's done. Alright, now, we're going to go on to part 3. Which is access code combos. Combo, I should say. Alright. Why do we play Veiler? Because with any tuner, this is another reason why you play Ash Blossom, because it's a tuner as well. That's also important, I didn't tell you. You really want to run 3 Ash Blossom if you can, because it's a tuner, to make Hulk. Slight benefit where Ghost Ogre and Haunted Mansion comes up too is that it is a tuner. So if you get Haunted Mansion, it might be the more pay-to-win version of Skullmeister, in the fact that you can use it for that purpose. So that's technically something. Although Ghost Bell, the one thing is I don't think it will negate an effect in the grave. Just cards that, yeah, it won't negate something like a bad set. So there's weaknesses to it. So it being a tuner kind of doesn't outweigh it. Alright, anyway, Ash and Veiler plus any other monster in your deck, or in Shark Cannons or Widow Anchor's case, any of your opponents, or Horn Drones as well, can help you make Hulk. Then you use Hulkly Fibrax to summon out Veiler out of the deck. This is why you want to play multiple. Now, with Veiler out of the deck, you will link off your Veiler and your Hulk to make Selene. Then, once you make Selene, Selene will get an effect. If this card is linked summon, you place spell counters on this equal to the amount of spells in both graveyards. The first effect is all that matters. So if you have 3 spells in your grave, that's all you need. Just need 3 spells in combination of both graveyards. This is a link 3. You can then special summon a spellcaster back from your grave. So with 3 spells in the grave, you activate its effect, remove the counters, and then you can special summon back your effect Veiler, because it is a spellcaster. Then you link off your Veiler along with your Selene and to a link for Access Code Talker. Then, if you have a ton of Sky Striker links in your grave, you can pretty much wipe their board, and since you will banish Selene for its effect, it will go up to 5,300 attack, and you can deal massive amounts of damage, and this would be the final blow to killing your opponent. So that's something you generally want to focus on. So that is your combo there. Now, outside of this, we also have Nightmare Phoenix. Nightmare Phoenix is in here because we could detach, we could discard a card, and then blow up a backer on the field. This is very good to out order. You're running this to out Imperial order mainly. And maybe the occasional Die Fire macro. Also, you can make Zeke plus Phoenix into Access Code as well, and get a 4,300 attack. It is possible. Ooh, excuse me. Also, you can steal your opponent's links. And do that as well. So if you steal your opponent's links, you can link with your opponent's links in Access Code. And if you didn't know, you can banish their links from the graveyard and boost up your Access Code that way. So very, very good. So let's say you have 4 monsters on the field and you link an Access Code and you steal like their Sharik, then you can get up to 6,300 and banish their Sharik for Access Code. Very, very good and very nasty. Alright, now, Now that that's out of the way, part 4 is matchups. I know this video is getting very long, and I am sorry for this, but I want to make sure we get as deep in depth with this as possible. Alright, now that you know about the deck, now that you know about most of the plays, I am going to go over the matchups. Oh, also, I did talk about one play earlier, and that's Ray and Area Zero. So remember how we said Ray can quick effect tag out, and Area Zero can excavate? So one play you can make is that you can activate Area Zero and summon Ray, and then you activate Area Zero targeting Ray to excavate. But then, since Ray can quick tag out, we can quick effect tag her out into maybe Ayate, and then we can excavate the 3. And because Ray did go to the grave, if we excavate 3, we can add a Sky Striker spell to Ray's hand. So that's a way to gain advantage. I didn't go over that earlier, but I wanted to make sure I had that covered. Okay. Now, matchups. First is Eldritch. Let's get the big elephant out of the room first. Alright, Eldritch. What can they do? Well, they control you. What cards do they have that control you? Their traps, which are main ones are Hakiro, Conquistador, okay, Sanguine. Okay, those are the 3 main ones that they activate that are not floodgates. So those go activate, and then they can summon out Eldritch Lord out of the deck and do their things. Okay? Hakiro can banish a Ray. Conquistador can pop. Now the thing is, if you summon Ray and they activate Conquistador, then you quick effect chain Ray to take out immediately. That way you summon like a Kane, because you really don't care about her. And then if Kane dies, you get to resummon Ray, and they wasted the Conquistador. Another thing is, to play around Hakiro, the best thing for you to do is to have another Ray in the grave. So they activate Hakiro when you link summon. You want to swing with Hayate and dump another Ray to counter Hakiro. Okay, so that's something you want to do. As far as Scarlet Sanguine, Ashing Sanguine is a very good play, that it prevents them getting Lord on the field. Also, they cannot activate any card effect. They cannot activate the effects to pop or banish it unless they have Eldritch Lord in the field. So if they don't have Lord out, they can't do that. So keep that in mind. Alright, now, Floodgates. What do they run? They run Skill Drain. They run IO. They run Rivalry. There can only be one. TK. TC. O. B. O. They also run, what other floodgates do they run? Gozen. So these are the most common ones, and Vanities. How do we beat these floodgates? Skill is outed by Lightning Storm, Duster, Twisters, which by the way is an SR, so you should pick up 3 of them if you're on a budget. No excuse. And also get the Lightning Storm bundle too. If you can't get Duster, or even if you can, get the Lightning Storm bundle. If you go second against these backward decks, you're going to feel really good opening them. Okay? Next. IO. How do we out IO? Chaining Twin and Nightmare Phoenix and technically Imperm. Rivalry TKBO is also outed by Goes and Vanities is also outed by Twin Twisters and generic back removal. Also, you can out Vanities by destroying any one of their cards. After Vanities has resolved. I'm writing this in caps. Okay, so very important. Now, Eldritch. What else can they do? They can Exceed Summon. And then, once they go into Link 10, they can get up to 6k attack. Once they overlay it to the big train thing. 6k attack, I should say. Alright, so that's something you need to know that they can do. Now, how do we beat Eldritch? Poke them with Hayate when you can. Keep your imperms in hand when you know where the floodgates are. Set up shark cannons to banish Lord once you pop. Oh, one other thing. Another skill drain out is Afterburners. Searchable via your engage. Not Shizuku, because if they have it on the field, you can't just search. Potentially a 0, but not guaranteed. Okay. And also, all floodgates outed by evenly. That's another thing. Okay? So that's what you need to know. So you want to banish Eldritch Lord whenever possible. That's the best way to out that. You want to grind them with Hayate. That's another good way to win that matchup. Grind with multi-roll. And get 3 spells, if possible, engrave before engaging. This will allow you to draw into Twin Twisters, Duster, and all the other techs to make this matchup a lot easier for you. It makes it a lot more winnable. Trust me on this one. It's the way you want to go. Okay. Now, next, Tritron. Okay. The thing you need to know about Tritron is, what do they want to do? What can they do? Summon Herald alongside Union Carrier plus IP or Apollo, or they can... No, that's mainly what they do. Alright, that's generally what their end board looks like. Dump. Key cards. Alpha. Benton. Zeta. Beta Fafnir. Medionis. Eva. Herald of Orange and Ultimateness. And Perfection and Natasha. Okay. So these cards are very important. This is what you need to know about beating them. Alright. Now, this is just, even, I don't care if you're playing Sky Striker, I don't care if you want to know how to beat them, I don't care. I don't care what you're watching this for. This is how you beat Drytron in general. Where do I hand trap them? This is the common question I get. Whatever deck, we're going to talk about this for Virtual War, we're going to talk about Drytron. How do I hit these people with hand traps? What do I do? Alright. Let's go over Ash. Ash the Benton. Can I type? Or Alpha. If you have very few hand traps, let's just say, for instance, you have one. Ash Alpha. Okay. The reason why you would Ash that is that way it makes it harder for them to summon Fafnir early on, before they could do anything else. It makes it harder for them to get to Muveda Fafnir. The other option is you wait for Diviner. Okay? The other option, which might be just as good, you can also, with one hand trap, one Ash, I'll just say this, or Valor, or whatever, also Ash Diviner. Why would you Ash Diviner? Ashing Alpha or Diviner is good. But Diviner, now that I think about it, might be slightly better. You Ash Diviner, keeps them from directly searching Herald, and keeps them from searching, keeps them from making Beatrice. That is very important. If you stop Beatrice, you potentially stop Eva. And that is extremely important. Because if you stop Eva, you get a chance to win. Okay? So, if you have one hand trap, one, go after Diviner. Okay? That's where I would go after. Some do run Dawn Dragster, which is a spell or trap negate, but that's much less to deal with than dealing with some Herald negates. Okay. Now, second thoughts. Second, where do I imperm Valor? The answer to that is always on Diviner. And Mubeta. Alright. Now, if I only open up one imperm, where do I prioritize that imperm? Is it Diviner or is it Mubeta Fafnir? Okay. For Sky Striker, would prioritize it potentially on Diviner. Because again, Diviner potentially keeps them off Eva, so I would say Diviner. If they do Mubeta and extend into a link play, it's less painful most of the time. Okay? So, if they go into Mubeta, then I would rather them potentially do that. Alright? I would say always potentially with one Imperm, one Valor, if that's all you have, go for Diviner. Okay? If you have more than one Imperm, then, or if you have like Imperm Valor or more than one Imperm, then you Imperm Diviner and you Imperm Mubeta Fafnir. Period. That will lock them down substantially. That's exactly what you want to do. Okay? So, what else? I'm going to talk about our little friend Skullmeister. And this also comes up in the Eldritch matchup. I didn't bring it up. You can banish this to negate an Eldritch spell trap from being set. So if they try to banish the spell trap and set a Skanguine, you say no. If they want to set a Conquistador, you say no. That's something Skullmeister can also negate as well. Can also negate the Eldritch from summoning itself in the grave too. So that's a lot of use. Okay. Anyway, Skullmeister. Negate Ben 10. Also, if you draw into it, off top deck, or engages, you can negate Alpha follow-up, or Ben 10 follow-up. So, drawing into this card later on is not bad, because this will help your grind. You can go after Ben 10. They do not get to search. They are a very sad bunny. Okay? You can also negate them from adding back their ritual spell. If you have multiple, stop them from adding their ritual spell back mid-late combo. Okay. So that is very, very crucial. Maxi, whenever they threaten a special summon, that's pretty obvious. Nibiru, don't, right before they search, right after I should say, they search Herald. Actually, better. Right after they activate Medionis, which is the ritual spell if you don't know it. Medionis Tritron. Nibiru. Them. Because they can only tribute machines. You may lock them out of Summoning Herald. Okay. I think in that case we've covered a lot of the hand traps. I think this covers a ton of the hand traps here. So that's actually quite nice. So we've covered them in retrospect. Unfortunately, evenly matched and back removal really doesn't do anything in this matchup, unfortunately. Awesome. Try to bait a multi-roll. If they don't negate, they're lost. Other texts. Dark Ruler. Droplets. What else is good? Kaijus. Hank I don't think is that useful here. Okay, so if you activate Droplets and you go after their monster, you can pop it with Afterburners and then start playing. So Droplets combos well with Maxi and Afterburners. And Widow Anchor. So you can run Droplets if you want to, and there's definite reason to do so. So keep that in mind. Alright? Good. That takes care of that. Also, Dark Ruler. Only problem is it locks you out of Hayate. So be very careful with that. Because they take no damage, you can't mill. Which still might be worth in the long run if you're gonna out of full Drytron field and gain control. The other one I talked about was Kaijus. Simple. Tribute over Herald and play. Which is very strong. Okay. That's that. Now, we're going to get into next matchup, which is Virtual World. How do we beat this? Okay. Key cards is Lalo, Lulu, Gigi, Lily, Very Fun Dragon, Shen Shen, which hoses us if we don't get rid of it. This is what you need to look out for. Okay. When to hand trap. Alright, this is another matchup where you want Imperm. Imperm is great to negate Shen Shen. If you do not have an answer for Shen Shen, you will get hosed. All your spells will get banished and you're not going to be happy. So, how do we hand trap them? Imperm and Veiler. Not really useful. Unless your opponent is drawing like crazy and open weak. So what does that mean? Alright, let's talk about this. If your opponent did not open a good opener, like Lulu Kowloon, that's your best opener. I would say Lulu, Gigi, Lalao's another good opener. They may rely. Also, another one is Gigi Kowloon. That's a pretty another strong opener. They may rely on Jamwu. If they do, then you can take advantage by Veilering and Imperming Croc and Charge Warrior. If they go too deep into combo and they don't have the resources, then they are going to be stuck. You want to do that. Okay, those are the best targets. If they open well, your best Imperm is either waiting for them to go full combo and hit Shen Shen with it on your turn, or to hit Cloud Castle so they cannot extend into Crystal Wing, Shen Shen, plus VFD. Alright. I like to hold Imperm for Shen Shen on our turn. That's generally a good time, unless I know they need to go off with Jamwu at the time. If you hit their Shen Shen, and it's very important to do, all your spells will not get banished. Otherwise, that's going to be very unfun for you. And if you link off your Ray is also going to get banished, which is not very good at all. So, in that case, the best thing to do is to Imperm their Shen Shen in most cases. If you Imperm VFD, you can Imperm VFD if they do not open Chuche, which most of the time they're going to have. So keep that in mind. So if you Imperm their VFD, it's only going to result in them popping it. If they only end on VFD, you could try to chase it out. In most cases, to deal with Very Fun Dragon, you pop it with afterburners, or grind it out. You could summon Ray and just pass turn, and then on their turn, you could quick effect tag out into a Link, and then if they get rid of it, then you get to resummon Ray, and you could chase out their VFD and grind through it. And then use your back row to carry you in the matchup. That's the best way to deal with VFD. VFD is not impossible with Sky Strikers to deal with. It's annoying, but it's not impossible. Alright? A good virtual role player will set up multiple beaters, and then bait the battle phase with Shen, bait you to deal with it, and then go back to the main phase, activate VFD so you can summon Ray and declare Dark. Alright, so you gotta be careful with that. It can also prevent you from resummoning Ray if they choose Dark. Alright, so that's something you need to be careful of. But you can grind out a Ray if you know what you're doing. I mean a VFD. Okay? Now, how do I hand trap VW outside of Imperm Veiler? Imperm. Alright. Veiler. Weaker than Imperm, but mostly on Charge, Croc, and Cloud. Ash. Okay, this is very important. Ash on... What is the card? Oh. Qinglong. Engrave. Do not Ash Lulu when there are no monsters on the field. This can result in them gaining a ton of advantage if they have Gamma. Ashing Lulu is a high risk, high reward play. Okay? It's very dangerous. Because if they chain Gamma, you get highly punished. Highly. Okay? If they do open up... The thing is, that rule applies if they don't open up Kowloon with it. If they open up Kowloon with it, it might be worth Ashing Lulu. So, if they open up Kowloon, then risk it. Because if you don't risk it, then they're just going to gain so much advantage it won't even matter. They could probably combo through it anyway. Then you want to Ash it, because then they're going to get an extra search anyway. And they may not have strong enough of a follow-up. Then I would say risk it if they open up Kowloon. But only if they open up Kowloon. Then risk it. Other than that, yeah. Okay. Anyway. Oh, and also, never Ash Kowloon. Don't do that. Or Desires. Or Etelli. Those are baits. Okay. Now. Next. Maxi. Only after they summon a VW. A monster. Make sure there's a monster on the field. Not worth the one draw to play into Gamma. Then they can't Gamma you anymore. Okay? Skullmeister on Qinglong and Nibiru before they summon Crystal Wing. If smart, they will Gossip Shadow before that can happen. So be careful of Nibiru. If multiple Meister, you can negate Zhang Wu. Or Chuche Engrave. Also, key card, Chuche. Pop off field as soon as possible. Or they have an infinite grind game. Shark Cannons. There. Shen. Get that banished. That's very good. Okay? This is how you beat Virtual World. You can even attempt to steal it. And then link it off and then cannons it. Or you can Zeke it. Okay? So, that's Virtual World. Tri-Brigade. Key cards. Kit. Minerval. What else? Fractile. Sharig. Zoo Engine. Zeus. Etc, etc, etc. Bird Up Engine. Simorg. Draco. Apollo. Robin. Trident. Revolt. Try to think of what else. Shakanine. That's another one you want to look out for. It's a pretty good list of what they generally... Oh, Nerval as well. And Tanky. Okay. Where do you want to do here? That's a lot. Imperm. Hand traps. Imperm. Valor. And are extremely useful. Negate after they banish, not before they activate. So they lose potential. GY resources. Ash the Tanky. To lose them a target for a potential Trident, Shakanine, Apollo setup with Ferjeet. That's another key card. Alright. So keep that in mind. Because otherwise, if you let them pop Trident, what they'll do is they will normal summon their zoo, then they'll make Trident, and then they'll Trident pop Tanky, and then they'll go Exceed off into Shakanine revive Trident, link those two off into Ferjeet. Ferjeet summons any Tri-Brigade, then they'll link off into the Link 2 that allows them to search, whatchamacallit, Revolt. Then they'll link 4 into, Appaloosa. So don't allow them to do that. Alright? So negate Tanky. Unless they openly discard Fractile. Then negate that first. Okay. Now, Skullmeister, the kit. Do not wait for them to dump their Minerval. Alright, so that's generally what you want to do in that department. Maxi, when they attempt a special, Widow is broken in this matchup. You steal and win. Or negate them. Nibiru not as good. What other notes? Evenly can be nice to stop a potential revolt when you have a weak board. Or haven't committed when they went first. So all good options here. Okay? Ghost Spell also stops their on-field tri-effects. Okay. Anyway, that's very important to know. Okay? Now to go into the bird up scenario. Outing Simorg. 3 ways. Shizuku. Actually, there's 4, but Kagari, Zeke, and access code. Zeke boost gets you up to 25, and you swing over. Kagari boost with 8 plus spells allows you to deal with it. Actually, I should say 9. Never mind, 9 plus spells. Same with Shizuku. But Zeke is your easiest out. Also, Zeke, Banish on Sharig is also powerful. Keeps them off beaters for a turn, to which next turn you could steal it and make plays. You can also steal and sack off for multi-roll. Or a 0. But less reliant because you must excavate. Good. Alright. That's that. So that covers pretty much Try. Another thing that we need to talk about is Robin. And then Zeus plays. Robin bounces special summon monsters up to material. That it has. Pop if can be targeted. Or grind it out. Also can be impermed. Good stuff. Okay. So there's that. Alright, so I think that pretty much covers most of the Try stuff. We talked about Revolt. We talked about a lot of the powerful plays that they can make and stuff like that. We talked about outing some more. Barrier statue we just swing over. And then, as far as Avion, you can use multi-roll to try to push through that Avion. That's another way. You can even negate the Avion and force it to do things. That's how we deal with Bird Up. Okay. Anyway. Oh. And Bird Up. Ash. A good play to Ash is to Ash their level 1 Exceed. That's pretty good. Solid. May not be enough, but it depends on what they have in their hand. Okay. What else? Next. And last, to cap off this long video, is the mirror match. Alright. Key cards. I don't think I really need to talk too much about that. Kigari. Ray. Rose. This is very important. Widow. Shark. These are the main cards that you need to understand in the mirror match. And evenly. Twin is a huge one. Multi. And Harpy's Feather Duster, Lightning Storm. Okay. In the mirror, this is extremely technical. And the way you're going to win this is by little things that you have to understand. Imperm the Shizuku. If you go second and they go first, imperm their Shizuku. If you end up going first or are trying to play around Valor, end step Ray, tag out into Shizuku. Reason why? They can't Valor you. If they Valor Ray, then you tag out. If they Valor Ray, if they don't Valor Ray, then you Shizuku in the end step, and then they gain no value. Shark Cannons, take that, recycle this as much as you can, along with Widow Anchor. This is very strong in the mirror. Shark banishes their Ray, steals their Kagari, and their Ash and Valors. Now, next. Twin Twisters. Key. Discard better than Feather Duster. And I know you think I was going to think I'm loony. I'm going to tell you why. Discard a spell. Blow up 2. Activate any third spell. And then Widow steal their Link. That's very strong. Then they don't get back Ray. Keep in mind they can Widow you too, so you have to be very, very careful. Make sure you have a backup plan. Make sure in the mirror you always have a backup plan. Use Hercules to recycle Kigari as fast as you can. Because you do not want them banishing it or stealing it. Next, multi-roll. Get it established as fast as possible. If you are in the mirror, get rid of theirs. Right after they send the spell off. Be careful of both Afterburn and, we didn't talk too much about this, jamming waves. Waves allows you to destroy a face down card, and if you have 3 more spells, you can pop a monster. If they make it unresponsive with their multi. Now, what else? Okay, big one. Rosé. You want to set up your Rosé ASAP, along with Ray. If you banish their link, very big brain play, you can summon Rosé back because they will have their monster leaving the extra monster zone. And you will resummon and negate Ray. And force them to jump off. Also, their Ray, their link that you banished, will come back to their main monster zone at the end of the turn. Their turn. What does that mean for you? That means when they get back their link, they cannot activate their Sky Striker spells on your turn. So no anchor or no cannons or hornet, but that's not really going to come up. So that's huge! Okay? Okay. Next. If you fear judgment, play around and always make sure before you duster or twin, multi-roll first. Also, play around evenly and not send a million unless you have multi-roll. Okay, so that's about it for the mirror match. That pretty much covers the main matchups that I wanted to go over. The most common decks that you will face during your journeys to Plat 1. Those are the main ones. Emancipator's another one. The key point in them is that when you go up against that Emancipator, maxi them the minute you see they activate an effect. That's the key point. If they end up summoning something like Kawakimero Guardian, you can opt to impermanent first, then they're kind of forced to do what they want to do. Call by is nice if you have it set against them, but that's not really going to be the case here. But Maxi is very good. Do it when when they first summon a monster and activate something like a Researcher, an Analyzer, or what's the other one? Whatever it is. The other level 2 that summons out of the deck. Anyway. Ash is really good on Gallant Granite, because then it can't search Block Dragon. So they don't open it, then they don't have, they don't get to dig deeper, which is very strong. You can also attempt to Ash their Emancipators, but be very careful. It's better to Ash a Researcher, because if you Ash a Researcher, then that's probably all they have if they committed a normal summon. So they may not be able to extend as much as they want to. But generally Ashing their Gallant Granite is very good. Valor, like I said, Gallant Granite, that's your best target. Imperm as well. You can also imperm their Adamanticators as well, so it becomes very strong. Skullmeister is very good because you can negate Block Dragon's effective search. So very strong. Okay. Other than that, that pretty much covers the matchups. So what do you want to do turn 1? Turn 1, most of the time your standard play is you're going to normal Ray. Well, turn 2 is your turn 1, but you're going to go Ray, you're going to go to Hayate. Most times off of Hayate, we're just generally dumping in Area 0 just to deck in ourselves. Unless we get 3 more spells in the grave, then it's worthwhile to dump Engage and start Kigarying and plussing. And setting up our multi-roll if we don't have it in hand already. If we do have it in hand, we're already getting it established. You know, that's pretty standard. Then you're going to grind them out until you feel like a lethal line is coming there with access code. Other than that, yeah, easy. Easy claps. Alright. Is Sky Striker cheap? Yes. I think it's very affordable, and I think you could change the text around to be very affordable. Evenly's an SR. Skullmeister's an SR. DD Crow's an SR. Those are viable texts to get you Plat 1. Maxi and Ash. Ash, you get 1 for free. Well, not for free, but for 700 gems. But other than that, like, most of the texts are not that expensive. Most of your spells are rares, SRs, and SRs. Alright, that's it for the video. If you want to see me play live, I'm going to be doing a Sky Striker climb tomorrow. Alright? So if you want to see me play this deck live, make sure you follow me on the link in the description below. It's probably popped up in the chat like 50 times over, but make sure you follow me on Twitch. I'll be streaming around 5 to 7 a.m. tomorrow morning, Eastern Standard Time. So if you're in Europe, you're in England, that's about 11 for you, 12 for you. You know, around lunchtime for England and Germany. Probably later on in the evening if you're further out east. If you're in California, it'll be around 3 a.m. Pacific time. So make sure you're here. Come chill out. We're a very fun environment. I will gladly answer your questions live on stream. I do talk to my viewers. I interact with my viewers. Once you acquire enough channel points, which doesn't take long at all, I will more than happily watch your replays live on stream. I do that. So make sure you come out. It's a really fun time. Yeah. Also, do me a favor, like, comment, and subscribe to this. Subscribe to my YouTube. Like and comment. It would do me a huge favor if you enjoy this content. Other than that, thank you very much. This is your boy, Tommorow, signing out. Peace.